The GPS DairyCast features the high-value insights of the GPS Dairy Consulting team's trusted advisors and the owners and managers from the elite dairy farms they serve. These conversations deliver on the GPS Dairy Consulting promise to inspire change and grow leaders.
Hello and welcome to the GPS DairyCAST. I'm Peggy Copping from the Up-Level Dairy Podcast, serving as your host. And on this GPS DairyCAST, we are coming to you from the 2024 GPS Leaders Forum. And joining us today for this episode is GPS team member Stephanie Jens, as she speaks with one of the featured session leaders today, Jorge Delgado from Alltech, on the topic of community, giving dairy employees a sense of belonging in our industry to increase retention. You're going to hear about some of the resources, strategies, and tactics to help make dairy employees feel like they're part of a community and contribute to overall employee retention and engagement right here on this GPS DairyCast.
Well, thank you, Jorge, for joining us today and also speaking at our forum this year. It was great to have you. You shared with us a lot about creating strong teams and like a sense of community on our farms. So I want you to share with me a little bit more about, before we get into some of the solutions, what are some of the challenges you see on farms when we're not creating like a sense of belonging for our employees?
Correct. Thanks for the invitation and thanks for the opportunity. I think this is a challenge that, many people is not aware or we don't want to know. We just hire people to get the job done, right? Either milk cows or take care of fresh cows or calves or anything like that. The big question that we have to ask ourselves is what happens with these guys after they are done with the chores of the farm? Where do they go? What are they doing after milking for 10 hours or 12 hours, right? Especially when these guys, they work so many long shifts, and especially the guys that work at night, right? We don't ask those questions, right? When we go to the farm, we see these guys milking cows or feeding cows or whatever it is. The challenge is that we don't know what's happening after those hours. And unfortunately, after those hours, there's a lot of isolation. We have to remember that many of these guys, they come from Central America and Mexico, right? So they don't come with families. Most of these guys are single individuals or individuals that come here for an opportunity so they can send money back to their countries. They don't have anybody here. So what happens behind those doors is something that affect them and affect us. So that's something that we have to be aware, and that's something that sometimes we don't know. And isolation can impact big time in the lives of those guys and the productivity of our farms. So that's the main thing is, I think, is ask what's happening after those hours and create a sense of community around that so these guys, they can have access to resources so they don't feel isolated after when the job is done.
Jorge, is there any way for farm owners or managers to have awareness around what isolation might look like or what some of those maybe characteristics would be if their employees are dealing with that?
Yeah. So unfortunately, isolation, the two main things that are going to happen is first, they will get into alcoholism. Mm-hmm. The second thing is, unfortunately, they will engage in bad social media. Mm-hmm. You can see even a lot when you go and share lunch with these guys as they're in a break, that they are looking at YouTube videos. And unfortunately, we do the same thing, right? Sometimes we look at the YouTube videos, but sometimes we're using those resources for information. Yeah. But many times when you are seeing these guys watching and what they watch is something that is that doesn't add something to either professional or personal. It's something either a different way that doesn't add to their lives. Bad information, missed information, scary information. And if you combine that with alcohol or drugs, then it creates the perfect storm for these guys to increase those kind of habits and not to perform at the dairy, either personal and either at the job. So one of the things that you're going to see is those kind of engagements, right? People getting late or people depending on alcohol to come and work and engaging on social media that is not necessarily the best thing as far as information.
Sure. Yeah. So when we talk about a sense of community, what do you feel are some of the most important parts of that farms should really focus on?
So there are two ways. So one is going to be the internal community. And then the other part is going to be the external community, right? And maybe we have to step back in what the definition of a community is, right? Community is a group of people that shares the same interest. That's it, the interest. So we have to internally and externally being able to fulfill those interests. And the interests that these guys they have, it could be many, right? It could be cultural, it could be social, it could be sports, it could be job security, education, and many things. So we have to work with both, so internal and external. Sometimes we can fulfill those things internally, but many things we cannot. So we have to depend on communities that are outside of the farm. So internally, we have to create that space so these guys, they can fulfill those needs. But when we cannot, we have to look outside of the farms. And that's the challenge. People at farms, we are just looking at things that happens inside, right? Get the things done, get the milk, the tank, the cows per hour, calves, many things. And we're not fulfilling the personal things that these guys, they have to have the sense of belonging. So that's where we have to work on. So we have to find those ways.
Yeah. And I do see like there are farms that really try to bring some of those cultural things in and do things on the farm to really bring these people together. But so we talked about internal versus external. Talk to me a little bit more about what does an external resource look like? Where would farms go to find some of those external resources, and then what would they bring to the farm that would be helpful?
Yeah, the good thing is that there are so many resources outside. The bad thing is that we're not aware of those. Yeah. And that's where we need to start looking, right? The farms, what they do is they expect those guys to find their own resources in their own time, in their own ways.
Sure.
And they have limitations, either language or access to information, media, website, whatever it is. So they are very limited. The one thing that we have to do as managers, leaders, or owners of the farms is that we have to be the ones looking for that information and bringing that information to the workers. So that's the first step. And it's amazing how much resources is out there in each state, especially for agriculture workers. So many resources for job, for health, cultural, civic, education, anything. And what I've seen is that farms are not necessarily reaching to have that information and not bringing that information to where the need is. So that's the first step. So we have to change that.
And so and I want to get into a little bit about what some of those might look like, right? So when you talked this morning, you talked a little bit more about, it could be something as simple as tools and resources to help them improve reading and writing, or to help them work a little bit more on, whether that might be bringing in cultural or sports type things. So that creates a sense of belonging. What are some of the examples of specific things that you've seen brought into farms that really help to build the culture?
Correct. I think the main ones is going to be access to health, right? And communication, right? Especially the language. Many people doesn't have access to health or health insurance on dairy farms, right? Or benefits. So when they don't have access to these things, they feel limited. For instance, they don't go to places where they can be checked for annual, health, physicals, or dental or anything like that. You can see many places where these guys, they rather to be in pain than go into a place where they can be taken care of because they don't have that information. So having access to these guys or inform these guys that there are so many resources in the community that they will accept immigrants or even people that doesn't speak, the language, because those resources are available, that's the main thing, health. The other thing is communication. So these guys, they face challenges every day to go to the bank or to go to the grocery store or driving, et cetera, because of the language. And there are so many resources in the community, like schools, like outreach, universities, extension, that are offering those kind of services. So I think those two pillars are the main ones, language and health, that these guys, they are eager to have access to, but unfortunately they don't know where are these resources.
Yeah, where to go and what to get them. And then the other thing that you focused on is having that information is important, but kind of how you digest the information in a simple manner, right? So we all know health insurance and benefits can be pretty complicated, right? So not only bringing that to the farm team and your employees, but then also having a way to make it easy for them to understand is really important, right?
Yeah, and there are so many organizations now working on that. It's again, we don't know where they are, and it's our job to look for it, find those resources, and make them available. That's it. That's all it takes.
So is there any list of these organizations that is by state or something that's easy for farms to reach out to?
Yes, I'm the first one, right, that feel or playing guilty in these, right? I should know, that there are so many resources. When I was prepping for this presentation, I was going to talk about community, and I don't have necessarily access to, those resources. So myself, when I was looking into the internet, there's so many resources just on the internet. What I did is I typed services for Hispanic community. That was it.
Okay.
And so many services pop out. And it was shocking for me that even the Minnesota Department of Labor, they have a department that works with the Hispanic or Latino community. Even the Minnesota Labor Department. And there's so many resources. It's amazing. It's amazing. And every city, main city in each state, they have those resources.
Yeah, and sometimes I think as maybe a farm owner that might become a little bit overwhelming. So it's maybe just reaching out and finding one that's local to you and talking to them about what kind of services they could provide.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they'd be willing to, help bring some of that information and organize it for them to get to employees.
True. When I was reaching to these guys, the community outreach organizations, I was afraid that, these guys, they were going to be like, I don't want to do these, I don't want to expose, these services, agriculture and anything. These guys, they were jumping and says, look, yes, I want to talk there. I want to help you. I want ourselves to be, to make ourselves aware of what we do and who we are. And I was, asking these guys if that was okay for these guys. Yes, we want to do that. We want to connect. We want to be exposed. We want to go into farms. We want to talk to the owners. We want to talk to the employees and let them that we exist and that they are not alone. It was amazing. Yeah, those guys are willing to help.
That's amazing to think that a group is so willing to come in and provide those services.
Yeah.
So I want to circle back around to the fact of if farms can provide some of these resources to their employees, what can be the positive outcomes of that, not only for the employees themselves, but then for the farm?
First thing, turnover is going to be reduced a lot, right? And when you reduce turnover, you're going to see so many things transforming your dairy, right? I mean, every time that you lose the guy, right, and goes to a different farm because he doesn't want to stay there, she doesn't want to stay there, you lose efficiency, right? You're getting your protocols done. And then he or she leaves in 3 or 6 months, then you have to retrain again. That's a very high cost, that a lot of people doesn't think over. So first is going to be, reduction in the turnover. And the second thing is you're going to see a lot of numbers, increasing on your efficiency. Either somatic cell count, either milk per cow, parlor through output, feed efficiency, repro efficiency. There are so many things. Once these guys, they feel that they belong into your business, they are not workers anymore. They are partners. That is the big difference. So once they see that sense of community, they say, look, this guy is not, he's my boss, right? Or she's my boss. But she cares about me or he cares about me. So I'm going to do my best and I'm going to care. Now I'm here for the paycheck, but more so also I'm here because I am part of this business. And I'm going to do my best. And I'm going to bring best people here, and I'm going to engage others, and I'm going to be part of this business, and you're going to see those numbers like fabulous, interesting, amazing. So
that's where that engagement and that community just builds from there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
If you're enjoying this podcast and you want to learn more about GPS Dairy Consulting, make sure to join our email list. Our announcements aren't just for GPS clients, but instead for anyone looking to advance their dairy business. Learn more about GPS and take a deeper dive into dairy farming hot topics. Stay in the loop with our once-weekly emails and have all GPS DairyCAST podcasts, blog posts, event announcements, and monthly newsletters sent straight to your inbox. You can join the GPS email list by clicking the link in the show notes.
Is there any other key takeaways from your discussion this morning that you think would be important to share with our clients?
Just get to know the people, right?
Okay.
These guys are the first set of eyes that are looking at your cows.
Okay.
They are milking the cows. They are looking at who's lame, who's healthy, who needs attention. They are the ones pushing the feed. They are the first one putting the colostrum in the cows. They are the first one looking at the cow, if she needs any assistance or anything like that. They are the ones feeding and mixing the feed for your cows. They are the ones in your business. So don't look at these guys just as somebody, as a number that will bring a benefit to you. Try to connect with these guys. Try to get involved. Try to see what's happening after those 10 or 12 hours a day. What are they doing? Where do they go? Who are their families? What are the things that they need? Do they think that they belong to this community? Do they think that they belong to this business organization? Ask them. Many people doesn't ask those questions. Hey, how do you feel? Do you feel that you're part of this mission statement? And one thing is, when you go to farms, you see these big, fancy mission statements, right? But when you ask the milker or the guy who's feeding the calf, if he understands what the mission statement is that is in the wall, guess what? Nobody gets it.
Yeah.
Nobody understands. So make those things simple and make those guys part of the mission statement and make those guys understand what the mission statement is. And then that will change the mentality. I am part of this mission statement, so I'm going to be working for somebody that really cares about me. I belong to this place. So that makes a big difference. Mission statements that are accessible.
That's amazing. And that's something that I think is easy for many managers and owners to do. It's taking a few minutes each day to ask the question and really listen, right?
Yes.
It comes back to listening too.
Yeah.
So.
No, it's very easy. And the other thing that you have to ask, that you say, right, is having these conversations and to make these guys think bigger than they think, right? Many of those guys, they come and, from Central America and Mexico, and all they do is just milk cows and get the check and send the check, and that's it. Their job is way bigger than that, but they don't know, and nobody makes these guys aware. These guys are feeding us. These guys are helping us. These guys are helping our jobs, right? I depend on these guys for my paycheck, and they don't know that. What they do is, grow GPS or anything, right, because of the things that they do. What we do is we don't make these guys aware of that. It's just, you guys come and milk a cow. No, you guys are here because you are part of a big, big picture. And your job is to feed this nation and help my family as I'm helping your family. That is something that we don't do.
It's pretty powerful.
Yes, it is.
It's pretty
Yeah,
powerful.
and many of these guys, they don't know. They just come and, 3 squirts per teat, right? Pre-dip, post-dip, go home. Nuh-uh. It's way bigger than that.
So we got a lot of work to do, don't we?
Yeah, every day.
Every day. So if we had to give our clients a first step to take, what would you encourage them to do today?
Yes. So the first step, I guess, is to take an internal picture, right? Realize that either you need help or you need to improve where you are. Okay. And I think the best way to do that is asking questions. There are 2 ways: ask directly, or take an internal survey, anonymous. Ask questions, hard questions, to see where you are, and then look at the results of those questions and see, look, this is where I am good, and this is where I need help, and look and ask for help. That's it. But many of us, we don't want to see that. I think everything is okay. I mean, cows are getting milk, and I'm done. But you can find out a lot when you ask. That's it. So start asking.
Well, that's a great point too, and I think sometimes that's hard for us to ask for help, maybe as business owners too, just like it might be for the employees
Yeah,
to
exactly the
ask
same.
for help.
Yeah.
So I think if we can both do a little bit better job at that, we can make some big strides
Yep.
in this area.
Yeah, be bold.
I'm going to finish with a curveball for you. What is like the most fun thing you've seen done on a dairy to really improve the sense of community within the employees?
I've seen where dairies, they have soccer tournaments.
Okay.
It improves the community or the sense of community a lot. Because many dairies, they do, food and holidays and things like that, right? Celebrate birthdays. But in dairies where they do internal soccer tournaments or they signed a team from the dairy to be part of a tournament, external tournament, anything that you can do to make these guys feel part of something, big.
Bigger.
And I think sports, it's great. Yes.
There's a nice connection there.
It's a nice connection, yes. Even if you don't know how to play, really well, I think that's great. And many dairies are doing it and it works.
Okay, Jorge, you talked about kind of those two main primary pillars of support, being health and communication. Is there some secondary pillars that could really drive community within the employees?
Yes, besides those, it's going to be networking. Community offers a lot of that, right? So if we go back again to definition of community, we are very clear that community is the sense of everybody has their own interest, right, or sharing their interest. So that community will share or offer those kind of interests. And one of the things that we like as individuals, not only Hispanics, is networking, right?
Yeah.
So think about these. If you are in a cruise, right, you're cruising to Hawaii or whatever, and everybody there is from China, and there's only you and me from America, right? But we're not traveling together. But you see me. Where do you go? To talk to the Chinese or to talk to me?
I'm going to talk to you.
Exactly. So that's the kind of thing. That's how they feel. So they come into a boat where nobody speaks the same language, different culture, different food. So you're going to connect to the other person that comes from the same culture as you. So cultural is going to be the other one, right? The networking. What are those resources? What are these things? Where can I, have access to, information, education, and many things like that? So networking is going to be very important for the community to offer to these guys.
So one of the big challenges we see on farms, it comes back to like employee turnover and retention rates, right? So sometimes we might not understand where this is really driven from or where the problem really is rooted from. Can you talk to me a little bit about where you think that might be coming from?
Yes, no, that's a great question because, we just think that people leave, right? Turnover exists and they leave and they are going to different farms and things like that. But I think that the link that we are missing is that many people leave because they don't find that community either in the farm or outside of the farm. Farmers are always thinking about how to get things done, right? I'm going to get my cow's milk and, my cow's fed. But many of these guys sometimes will leave not just only for economic incentives, but they are going to leave because there is not a community built inside or outside of the farm. So the piece that we're missing is that we are not creating that sense of community.
So in a way, they feel isolated from the rest of the team, perhaps.
And lack of community will prove, or will engage into isolation. Okay. And isolation will engage in so many bad habits that it will lack in performance for the dairy farmer.
Thank you for jumping on with us for this GPS DairyCast. You just heard from GPS team member Stephanie Jens and Jorge Delgado from Alltech. If you like this episode, make sure you're following and subscribing and keep tuning in to more of the GPS DairyCast. I'm your host, Peggy Copping from the Up-Level Dairy Podcast, and thanks for taking a listen with us today.
The GPS DairyCast features conversations that deliver on the GPS Dairy Consulting promise to inspire change and grow leaders. If this GPS DairyCast has you looking for more ways to become an elite dairy producer, find more information in our show notes on how you can add a GPS advisor to your team.